Captain Jacob Reese stood on the bridge of the Dauntless, staring out into the blackness of space. Stars glittered like tiny diamonds scattered across the dark canvas. His crew worked quietly around him, their faces tense. They were far from Earth, deep in uncharted space, looking for new worlds and new allies. Instead, they found danger. Suddenly, alarms blared. "Captain, sensors detect multiple fast-moving ships approaching," shouted Lieutenant Mara, the ship's communications officer. Her fingers flew over the controls. Jacob frowned. "Identify them," he said sharply. "Unknown. No matching signals in the database, but they're powerful, and they're locking weapons on us." Jacob's heart beat faster. Prepare for evasive maneuvers. Shields up. The bridge shook as the first blast hit the ship's shields. Bright red lights flashed. The crew worked hard to keep the Dauntless steady. Jacob grabbed the intercom. "All hands, brace for impact. This is Captain Reese. Prepare for battle." Outside the viewports, strange ships closed in. They were unlike anything Jacob had ever seen, sleek, tall, and shimmering with metallic colors that changed with every angle. Their weapons fired with deadly precision. Jacob ordered the crew to fire back, but their weapons barely scratched the alien ships. One after another, the enemy ships surrounded the Dauntless. Soon, a large tractor beam locked on the human ship, pulling it closer. "Captain, we're caught." "They're pulling us in," cried Mara. Jacob gritted his teeth. "We can't fight them head-on. Prepare to send a distress signal to Earth." Suddenly, the ship trembled violently. The tractor beam tightened, dragging the Dauntless into a massive, alien vessel. The human ship's engines screamed in protest but gave way. Inside the enemy ship, harsh lights flickered. Guards in strange armor rushed toward Jacob and his crew. They were tall and slender, with silver skin that gleamed under the lights and eyes that glowed violet. Jacob's hands were tied behind his back. He was thrown into a large chamber where a single figure waited, a tall woman with shimmering, silver skin and eyes that sparkled like stars. She wore a crown made of crystals that shone softly. Jacob blinked. This must be the leader. She spoke in a clear musical voice, but her words were translated instantly by his implant. "I am Queen Ilaria of the Zelari Empire.
Oh, you are far from
your home, human. Why have you come to our space?" Jacob straightened his back, refusing to show fear. "Exploration. Seeking new allies, new worlds." The Queen's eyes narrowed slightly. "Your kind are known for destruction and war. Why should I believe you are different?" Jacob smirked, the same smirk he wore on battlefields back on Earth. "Because I'm not here to fight you yet." Queen studied him for a long moment. Then, surprisingly, she smiled a soft, almost shy smile. Jacob took a step closer and looked at her. Her face was unlike anything he had ever seen. Delicate but strong, glowing softly in the dim light. Without thinking, Jacob said, "You're so beautiful. I'm speechless." The room fell silent. Jacob immediately regretted his words. He was a soldier, not a poet. What was he thinking? But then something unexpected happened. The Queen's cheeks flushed a soft lavender color, a rare sign of embarrassment among her kind. She looked away for a moment, then returned her gaze. "You speak boldly, human? Perhaps too boldly?" Jacob chuckled. "Sometimes boldness is the only way to survive." The Queen nodded slowly. "You will be kept alive for now. But do not think this spares you from judgment." Jacob was led away, his hands still bound. The guards moved him through twisting corridors filled with strange lights and sounds. He noticed others, prisoners from different worlds, but none looked like him. In a small cell, Jacob sat down on the cold floor. His mind raced. The Zelari Empire was known throughout the galaxy for its power and strict rule. Humans were rarely seen outside their own space and never alive when they were captured. But Jacob was no ordinary human. He had fought wars on Earth and beyond. He had survived battles where others died. And he had something many others lacked: the ability to read people, to find weakness, and to turn it to his advantage. He closed his eyes and took a deep breath. If he was going to survive, he had to find a way to turn the queen's curiosity into an advantage. The next day, Jacob was brought back before Queen Ilaria. This time the throne room was more impressive. Walls shimmered with moving light patterns, and a soft hum filled the air. The queen sat with an air of quiet authority. "Tell me, Jacob Reese," she said, her voice softer now, "what makes your species special?" Jacob shrugged. "We're stubborn. We fight when others run, and we never stop hoping." Ilaria smiled again, the blush returning faintly. "Hope. A dangerous thing for a ruler to encourage." Jacob leaned forward, his eyes sharp. Sometimes hope is the strongest weapon. The queen's expression softened. "You are unlike any prisoner I have held. Others bow or break quickly." Jacob met her gaze. "Maybe I'm just crazy enough to survive." A small laugh escaped her lips. Suddenly the doors burst open. Several Zellery nobles entered, their faces hard and suspicious. "This human is a threat to the empire," one said harshly. "Should be executed." The queen stood, her voice firm. "He is under my protection. He's a guest, not a prisoner." The nobles sneered but backed down for now. Jacob watched the queen carefully. She was young, maybe too young to rule such a vast empire, but there was strength in her, and something else. A kindness he hadn't expected. That night, as Jacob lay on the cold floor of his cell, he thought about his words to the queen. "You're so beautiful, I'm speechless." Wasn't just a joke. Somehow he meant it, and somehow it had changed everything. The light in the chamber was softer now, a calm glow from the floating crystals that circled the room. Captain Jacob Reese sat quietly on a bench inside the vast palace that belonged to Queen Ilaria. The cold, rough stone of his cell was gone, replaced by smooth floors and walls that shimmered with moving colors. He was no longer a prisoner, locked away. Instead, he was a guest, or so the queen insisted. Jacob had learned something new about the Zellery in just one day. Their empire was not just about power or war. It was also about tradition, pride, and strange customs. And Ilaria, their young queen, seemed caught between the old ways and the future. The door slid open, and the queen stepped inside. Her silver skin shimmered in the light, and her violet eyes shone with curiosity. She wore a robe that flowed like liquid metal, elegant and light. But her smile was what caught Jacob's attention. It was warm, unlike the cold command he expected. "Jacob," she said softly, "come, walk with me." He stood and followed her through wide halls decorated with alien art. The walls seemed alive, glowing softly with moving light patterns. As they walked, Ilaria spoke quietly. "You speak in ways no other human has before. You joke, you challenge. Me, you are not afraid." Jacob shrugged. "Fear doesn't get you far in war, and I'm not here to die quietly." Ilaria laughed softly. "War ... It is a terrible thing. My people have known it for centuries." Jacob looked at her. "And what do you want, Queen Ilaria? What do you hope for?" She stopped and looked out a large window at the stars beyond. "Peace. Strength to protect my people. But sometimes I wonder if strength and peace can truly live together." Nodded. "I know that feeling." Ilaria turned back to him. "You are different from other humans. You're not like the stories I heard. They say humans are violent, reckless, but you make me question everything." Jacob smirked. "Good. Questioning is the start of change." For a moment, they simply looked at each other, human and alien, ruler and captive, sharing a silent understanding. But the calm did not last. Suddenly the doors burst open, and several Zellery nobles entered. They wore dark robes, faces stern and eyes sharp. One of them, a tall man with silver hair and a cold smile, stepped forward. "Your Majesty," he said, bowing slightly, "this human is a threat to the empire. His words and actions are dangerous. He must be executed." Ilaria's eyes hardened. "Jacob is under my protection. He will not be harmed." The nobles exchanged looks, clearly unhappy. "Isn't that your decision?" "The council will decide." Ilaria held her ground. I am the queen. My word is final. The nobles bowed and left, but their hostility was clear. They did not trust Jacob or the queen's strange kindness toward him. Jacob watched the exchange carefully. He knew he was a symbol now, more than a man. He was a test of the queen's strength and will. Later, as the palace quieted, Jacob and Ilaria met again in a private garden. Strange plants with glowing flowers lit the air with soft colors. The alien garden was beautiful and peaceful, a sharp contrast to the tension inside the palace walls. You trust me? Jacob said quietly. Ilaria nodded. I do. You remind me that there is more to life than power. Jacob smiled. Maybe we both need a little rebellion. She laughed, the sound light and musical. Rebellion is dangerous, but perhaps necessary. Their time together became the highlight of Jacob's days. The queen asked questions about Earth, about humans, about war and peace. Jacob told stories of battles and losses, but also of hope and laughter. He showed her old pictures from Earth on a small device. She marveled at the green forests, blue oceans, and bright cities. Your world is beautiful, she said softly. Why would anyone want to destroy it? Jacob's smile faded, because power is often more important than beauty. Ilaria looked troubled. Then we must find a way to protect both. But even as their friendship grew, danger lurked nearby. The nobles plotted quietly. They saw Jacob as a threat to the old order, a human who could weaken the queen's rule. Evening, as Jacob walked alone in the palace corridors, he sensed movement behind him. Suddenly, a sharp pain struck his side. He fell to the ground, gasping, "Guards!" He shouted, but before anyone came, everything went dark. When Jacob woke, he was in a small, dim room. His side burned with pain. Someone was watching him. The door opened slowly, and Queen Ilaria entered. Her face was pale, worried. You were attacked, she said softly. They want you dead. Jacob tried to smile. They're not very good at it. Ilaria sat beside him. I will protect you, but you must be careful. The council will not wait forever. Jacob reached out, taking her hand. I'm not afraid, not with you. For the first time, Ilaria blushed again, a soft lavender tint to her cheeks. It was a rare sign, one that showed her true feelings. Their bond was growing stronger, a connection between two worlds, built on trust, respect, and something deeper. But the danger was real. The Zellery Empire was not ready for change. Nobles' hatred burned like fire. Jacob's presence threatened to ignite a war within the palace. As days passed, Jacob continued to learn about the Zellery people, their history, their culture, their hopes and fears. He discovered that beneath the shining surface of the empire was a fragile balance, a balance that the queen struggled to keep. One night, as Jacob and Ilaria walked beneath the twin moons of the gas giant that was the Zellery homeworld, she spoke quietly. If we are to survive, we must find a way to change the empire from within. Jacob nodded. Change is never easy, but sometimes it's the only way. Ilaria looked at him, her violet eyes full of determination. I will. You stand with me? Jacob smiled. Always. Together, they planned a way forward, a future where humans and Zellery might live in peace. But the council would not give up power easily. The fight for the empire had only just begun. The days following the attack were tense. The Zellery nobles whispered behind closed doors, plotting and watching. Captain Jacob Reese remained a guest in the palace, but no longer a safe one. Every step he took was watched, every word he spoke. Measured Queen Ilaria sat on her throne, the weight of her empire heavy on her shoulders. She had never expected to be torn between tradition and change so quickly. The nobles wanted Jacob dead to keep the empire pure and unchallenged. But Ilaria saw something different in him, a chance for a new future. Jacob knew his presence had upset the balance. The nobles spoke openly of rebellion. Ilaria's council met daily, debating her decisions with anger and suspicion. Some whispered of removing her as queen. Others plotted to capture or kill Jacob themselves. One afternoon, Jacob was summoned to the throne room. The air was thick with tension. Ilaria's violet eyes met his, steady and calm. "I have a plan," she said quietly. Jacob raised an eyebrow. "I'm listening. The council has demanded your death. If I obey, I lose their support, and maybe my crown." Jacob nodded slowly. "And if you defy them?" Laria's lips curved into a small smile. "Then I risk everything. But I cannot let the Empire fall to fear." Jacob stood tall. "What do you need from me?" Ilaria's gaze sharpened. "I will fake your death. You will disappear from the public eye. I will hide you within my inner court as a foreign advisor. You will help me learn, plan, and fight, but in secret." Jacob was surprised. "Dangerous." The queen nodded. "So is ruling." From that moment, their lives changed. Jacob was moved to a hidden chamber. Deep within the palace, a place of comfort and security. His hands were free, and his weapons returned. But he was no longer a prisoner. Instead, he was an advisor, a secret partner in the queen's struggle. Their conversations grew longer and more personal. Jacob shared stories of Earth's history, of human courage and mistakes. He taught Ilaria about emotions, love, hope, fear, things the Zelari rarely spoke of openly. Ilaria listened eagerly, fascinated by the human spirit. She confessed her loneliness, the isolation of power. Jacob understood he had felt it in war and in peace. One evening, in the quiet of the hidden chamber, Ilaria asked, "Tell me about your family." Jacob smiled softly. "I had a sister. She was the reason I fought so hard. I wanted to protect her world." Ilaria's eyes softened. "I understand. I have no family now, only duty." Jacob reached out, touching her hand gently. "You don't have to be alone." Their bond deepened, not just as queen and captive, but as two souls searching for connection in a harsh universe. But danger was never far. The council grew restless. Rumors spread of a secret human living among the palace's highest ranks. Nobles whispered of treason and weakness. One day, Jacob uncovered a plot, a plan to assassinate Ilaria and frame him for the crime. He hurried to warn the queen. "We must act quickly," he urged. "The council wants to destroy you and me." Ilaria nodded. "Then we will fight." They gathered loyal guards and trusted advisors. In secret, they prepared to expose the traitors. The night before the planned attack, Jacob stood with Ilaria on a balcony overlooking the palace gardens. The twin moons cast silver light on their faces. "Whatever happens," Jacob said quietly, "I'm with you." Ilaria smiled, a blush coloring her cheeks again. "And I with you." The next day, the council called a public tribunal, a grand event where accusations were made and punishments handed down. The nobles intended to use it to remove Ilaria and execute Jacob. But Ilaria surprised everyone when her name was called. She stepped forward, her voice clear and strong. "I stand accused of treason for protecting a human," she said. "I make no apology. He is not my enemy. He is my advisor, my friend." Gasps echoed through the chamber. Jacob was brought before the crowd. He could have stayed silent, but instead, he spoke with fierce honesty. "Humans are not perfect," he said, "but we fight for survival, for hope, for love, and we will not be judged by fear or hate." His words stirred the crowd. Some nobles shouted, but many listened. Ilaria raised her hand. "The Empire must change. We cannot grow stronger by destroying what we do not understand." The tribunal was interrupted by a sudden attack. Rebels loyal to the old council tried to seize the palace. Jacob and Ilaria fought side by side, leading the palace guards. Their combined strength surprised everyone. In the chaos, Ilaria declared a new royal war code, making herself absolute ruler until the empire was stable. The nobles were divided. Some fled, others pledged loyalty, but the fight was only beginning. News reached Earth. The Zellar Empire was unstable and preparing for war. The human coalition sent fleets to support Ilaria and protect Earth. Jacob's former Marine squad arrived in orbit, ready to fight alongside their captain. In a quiet moment before battle, Ilaria and Jacob stood together. "You have changed," Me, she whispered. Jacob smiled. And you have shown me a new way to fight. They clasped hands, ready to face the coming storm together. The grand hall of the Zellery Palace was filled with thousands of beings from across the empire. The walls were lined with tall, shining pillars that reflected the light from hundreds of floating orbs. The air was heavy with tension and whispers. Today was the day of the Grand Tribunal, a gathering meant to judge Queen Ilaria and Captain Jacob Reese. The chamber was packed. Everyone wanted to see how the story would end. The queen lose her crown? Would the human be punished? Or was there a chance for change? Ilaria sat on her throne, her silver skin glowing softly under the bright lights. Her violet eyes scanned the crowd, but they found Jacob. He stood tall beside her, calm but ready. The guards around them were alert, weapons ready. The High Executor, a stern man with cold eyes and a voice like thunder, stood before the crowd. Queen Ilaria is accused of betraying the Empire by protecting a human, a dangerous alien from Earth. This act weakens our strength and breaks our sacred laws. Murmurs spread through the crowd. Some nodded in agreement. Others looked uncertain. Jacob stepped forward. His voice echoed clearly. I am not here to ask for mercy. I am here to speak the truth. The crowd quieted, waiting. We humans have been called many things: violent, reckless, weak. But we are survivors. We fight for what we believe in, for hope, for freedom, for those we love. Ilaria nodded beside him, her eyes fierce. Jacob's words shook the crowd. The nobles whispered among themselves. Some were angry, others seemed moved. The High Executor's face hardened. You would turn your people against their rulers. Ilaria rose from her throne. I am your queen. I have ruled not by fear, but by hope and strength. I will not let the empire fall to hatred. She raised her hand, and the lights dimmed. Holograms appeared, showing images of Earth, green forests, blue oceans, and cities full of life. This is the home of the human, she said softly. They are not enemies. They are allies in a universe that grows darker each day. Crowd gasped. The council members shouted protests, but Ilaria's voice was steady. Jacob stepped beside her again. We do not ask for your trust. We ask only for a chance. Suddenly alarms sounded. Rebel guards loyal to the old council stormed into the hall, weapons raised. The fight for the Empire had begun. Jacob drew his blaster, firing with precision. Ilaria called for her loyal guards. Together, they fought to protect the throne. In the chaos, Ilaria declared a royal war code. The old council was dissolved. She claimed absolute rule, at least until peace returned. The nobles were divided. Some fled, fearing punishment.
Others
Knelt, pledging loyalty to the queen and her human advisor. Outside the palace, ships from Earth's human coalition arrived in orbit. They prepared to support Ilaria in the coming war. Jacob's old marine squad landed on the capital moon, ready to fight alongside him and the queen's loyalists. In a quiet moment before the battle, Ilaria and Jacob met on a balcony overlooking the city. The twin moons cast a soft glow. You have changed me, she whispered. Jacob smiled. And you have shown me a new way to fight. They held hands, ready to face the storm together as allies, as friends, and maybe more. The sky above the Zellery capital moon burned with the fire of war. Starships moved like deadly shadows, exchanging bursts of light and sound as they clashed in orbit. Below, on the rocky surface, ground forces fought fiercely in armored suits that glowed with energy. Captain Jacob Reese led a squad of human marines, their weapons trained on enemy positions. Beside them, Zellery rebels moved swiftly, fighting to protect the new future they believed in. The air was thick with smoke and dust, but the soldiers pressed on. Jacob's heart raced. This battle would decide the fate of two worlds, Earth and the Zellery Empire. He glanced at the glowing sky and thought of Queen Ilaria. Leading her loyalists from the palace, inside the throne chamber, Ilaria faced her greatest challenge. Her uncle, the High Executor, once her enemy in the council, stood before her, His face was twisted with anger and betrayal. "You have doomed the Empire," he spat. "With your foolish kindness, you have brought chaos." Ilaria stood tall, her eyes burning with determination. "No, I have given us a chance to grow stronger together." The High Executor lunged, and their battle began. It was a fight of strength and skill, a clash of wills. Ilaria's crystal crown glowed as she used ancient powers known only to the royal family. Outside the throne room, the battle raged on. Jacob and his marines pushed forward, clearing paths for loyal Zelari forces. The enemy was fierce but scattered. Lacking unity, as the fight reached its peak, Jacob received a message: Ilaria was wounded. Without hesitation, he fought through enemy lines to reach her. Inside the throne chamber, Ilaria stood, breath heavy, but victorious. The High Executor lay defeated at her feet. Jacob entered, his face grim. "You need help?" She smiled weakly. "I will live. For the Empire and for you." Together, they left the chamber. The war was not over, but hope burned brighter. In the days that followed, the Zelari Empire began to heal. Ilaria's rule grew stronger as she rebuilt alliances and trust. Jacob was named Earth's ambassador to the Zelari, symbol of unity between two very different worlds. The people cheered as the queen and the humans stood side by side, leaders of a new era. One evening, as the twin moons rose again, Jacob and Ilaria stood on the palace balcony. Stars shone bright, full of promise. Jacob looked at her and said quietly, "You're so beautiful, I'm speechless." Ilaria blushed, a soft lavender glow coloring her cheeks. This time her smile was proud. The future was uncertain, but together they were ready to face it, as allies, friends, and perhaps something more.